The landscape of the NFL was so much different in the 2000s, as was the world itself. While the Patriot Act put an end to our privacy, the Patriots of the NFL were quickly becoming a dynasty. Reality shows were a new staple on TV, and in turn, Hard Knocks became a crucial part of every August. As music and movies were now on demand, so too was our access to football. But while we can see the fingerprints of our current age of the NFL buried in the 2000s, there's still so much that wouldn't fly today. They say a failure to plan is a plan to fail. Well, I certainly didn't plan on being single again at the age of 46, and everything that comes with being a bachelor. Especially the meal prep part and feeding myself like a grown-up. And whether you're in that boat or not, Factor has you covered. With Factor, healthy, delicious meals are delivered right to your door with no prep and no mess. These never frozen meals are fresh and literally only take 2 minutes to heat up. And now I can eat these meals in bed without getting yelled at. It's freaking amazing. My favorite thing is that these meals are filling and delicious and around 550 calories or less. And now you can try Protein Plus meals for an added 30 grams of protein more per serving. They even have upscale menu offerings. And these things are great for lunch. Keep your energy going with wholesome, effortless meals like grain bowls and salad toppers. Those don't even need to be microwaved. So after this video, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 5points50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Again, that's factor75.com from the link below and use code 5points50 to get 50% off your first box. Jacked Up. Jacked Up was a segment that aired on ESPN's NFL programming, primarily on the show NFL Primetime, which featured game highlights and analysis. The segment was known for showcasing bone-jarring hits from NFL games, often accompanied by enthusiastic commentary from the hosts. Hosts that were a little too excited to break down players' CTE origin stories. It gained popularity for its energetic presentation and emphasis on the physicality of the sport. Plus, the catchphrase is pretty funny. It was hard not to like as fans back when we cheered for huge arterial damage-causing hits more than we cringed. However, the segment received criticism for glorifying and sensationalizing violent hits that resulted in debilitating injuries to players. Many of the tackles highlighted in Jacked Up were helmet-to-helmet hits, or hits that led to concussions or other things like eating through a straw. It's fair to assume that by focusing on these extreme plays, the segment promoted a culture that contributed to the long-term health risks faced by NFL players. And we've obviously gotten safer since the 2000s. As awareness of concussions in football grew thanks solely to Will Smith, there was an increasing emphasis on player safety and reducing unnecessary risks on the field. The Jacked Up segment came under scrutiny for seemingly disregarding these concerns. In response to the evolving understanding of player safety and potential impact of the segment, ESPN eventually phased out Jacked Up and shifted its coverage to focus more on the overall game and player performances rather than sensational hits. And that's why This Week in Sports Ball is so much better. So now, that segment is gone. The big hits that you see are put on Highlight Heaven's channel and attempted to be erased from history altogether by the NFL. And remember people, it's always better to be jacked up than jacked on. Horse collars and crackback blocks. Horse collar tackles and crackback blocks were once prevalent in the NFL, but were eventually outlawed due to concerns about player safety and potential for serious injuries. Where have we heard that before? A horse collar tackle occurs when a defender tackles an offensive player by grabbing the inside collar of a player's jersey and yanking them down from behind. This can lead to the tackled player's legs getting caught under them, resulting in dangerous falls and potential knee, ankle, or spinal injuries. Extra dirty defenders like Rodney Harrison would throw in landing on the back of a calf and a jacked up tibia to boot. These types of tackles gained attention due to several high-profile injuries, including the case of Eagles receiver Terrell Owens in 2004, who suffered a serious ankle injury from a horse collar tackle. In 2005, the NFL implemented a rule that made horse collar tackles illegal. The rule stated that defenders were not allowed to grab the inside collar of the jersey at the back or side and pull the ball carrier to the ground. Cowboy safety Roy Williams, the patron saint of the horse collar tackle, was the poster boy for the move and eventually received a one-game suspension for pulling down Donovan McNabb from behind in 2007. Interesting that his career took a downturn after that play. Likewise, a crackback block is a block made by an offensive player who comes back towards the line of scrimmage to block a defender who is moving laterally or towards the offensive backfield. These blocks often target players who are not expecting a hit from that direction, leaving them vulnerable to injury, particularly head and neck injuries. They can also lead to blindside hits that have a high potential for concussions or being on the previously mentioned jacked up series. That was fully on display when Hines Ward blindsided Bengals linebacker Keith Rivers in 2008, immediately ending his standout rookie season in Cincinnati. Interesting that Ward's hit doesn't get as much heat as Vontaze Burfict hitting Antonio Brown, but then again, Keith Rivers never lost his mind and bankrupted an Arena Football League team. The NFL has also introduced rules to limit and regulate crackback blocks. For instance, crackback blocks that occur outside the tight end box, an area extending a few yards outside each tackle, are prohibited if the blocker is moving towards the original position of the ball at the snap. This rule change was intended to protect defensive players from blindside hits that could lead to injuries. Since the 2000s, the NFL has continued to evolve its rules and enforcement mechanisms to promote safer play and reduce the chances of players suffering preventable injuries, only pretty much because it looks bad on them not to. Yahoo Fantasy. Yahoo Sports fantasy football platform was once a highly popular and widely used platform for fantasy football enthusiasts. It gained popularity for several reasons, including its user-friendly interface, customizable league settings, and robust set of features that cater to both casual and hardcore fantasy football players. However, since the aughts, its popularity has gone downhill, much like other 2000 stars like Britney Spears or Dick Cheney. Yahoo Sports offered a user-friendly interface that made it easy for both beginners and experienced players to create and manage their fantasy football teams. The platform provided tools for drafting players, setting lineups, making trades, and tracking player statistics. All groundbreaking shit back then. And get this, to get live stats updates, you actually had to pay extra for Stat Tracker. All this flexibility made it possible for players to tailor their fantasy experience to their preferences in ways we hadn't seen in the 90s when shit was done on paper. You really felt like a commissioner when you logged in, except you didn't pull in $50 million a year and have the power to suspend players unilaterally. But it was pretty satisfying to deny two of your asshole friends a trade. Over the years, numerous other fantasy football platforms and apps have emerged, including ESPN, CBS Sports, Underdog Fantasy, of course, and even NFL.com. And as time went on, newer platforms were successfully able to integrate the money part into fantasy sports and essentially skirt gambling laws, as fantasy was deemed to involve skill, not luck. Though taking Peyton Manning #1 overall back in the 2000s all but guaranteed you a league win, and getting that pick was pure freaking luck. But back then, of course, gambling was illegal in most parts of the country and dues had to be collected manually. But these days, you can't go 5 minutes without hearing about placing a freaking bet. Yahoo is now a footnote in fantasy history, as Google has slowly invaded our lives in a way that Yahoo didn't dare to. The Madden brand. When you really want to talk about things or people that wouldn't fly in today's NFL, you have to look at a guy that wouldn't fly at all. I'm talking about the late John Madden, of course, the head coach turned broadcaster turned video game mogul. The Madden NFL video game series, developed by the then not hated Electronic Arts, played a significant role in establishing John Madden's brand in the 2000s. The series began in 1988, but gained widespread popularity in the 2000s due to its annual releases and consistent improvements in gameplay, graphics, and features. And of course, it's only gone downhill since. Madden's involvement in the video game series added to its credibility. He lent his name, voice, and football knowledge to the games, making them more authentic and appealing to fans. His signature catchphrases, commentary, and affinity for Brett Favre and turducken became synonymous with the gaming experience, creating a sense of familiarity and authenticity for players. And nowadays, Madden is still Madden in names, but you don't hear his voice when you pick plays, and it might as well be called EA NFL at this point. Now, John Madden's broadcasting career was another cornerstone of his brand in the 2000s. His insightful and often humorous commentary, along with his unique telestrator analysis, made him a beloved figure among football fans. His broadcasting work, in partnership with Pat Summerall, who was drunk most of the time, and Al Michaels, made him a prominent fixture during NFL broadcasts. When he called his last game in February of 2009, it marked the end of an era. Madden's larger-than-life personality contributed to his ubiquity in the 2000s. He was also fodder for impressionists like Frank Caliendo, another guy that definitely peaked in the 2000s. Madden's brand extended beyond the video game and broadcasting realms. He was involved in various advertising campaigns, further solidifying his presence in popular culture. To this day, you can't say the words tough actin' to Nactin' and not read it in John Madden's voice. These days, we just don't have a singular voice or brand as powerful and synonymous with the NFL as John Madden was. Do you really think EA Sports could sell 1 million copies of Collinsworth NFL? And finally, the last 2000s NFL that wouldn't fly today. Running backs scoring TDs. In the span of a mere 4 years, we saw the single-season touchdown record broken 3 separate times by 3 separate running backs. In 2003, Priest Holmes found the end zone 27 times, scoring every single one on the ground and helping the Chiefs to a 13-3 record. What's really crazy about that season? He was 30 fucking years old. Today, running backs are sent to the glue factory the moment they turn 26. 2 years later, league MVP and Madden cover athlete Sean Alexander one-up Priest, hitting pay dirt 28 times with just 1 receiving, carrying the Seahawks all the way to Super Bowl 40. Where he finally met his match when he ran into the zebra curtain in Detroit. Again, he was 28 years old when he broke the record, which is old even for a corn star. Alexander's record stood for less than a year in one of the greatest seasons by any player we've ever seen. LaDainian Tomlinson broke the goal line a record 31 times, including 28 of those on the ground. Tomlinson was the easy choice for MVP. The Chargers had the best record in the NFL, and of course it all came crashing down in the divisional round thanks to Marlon McCree's slippery butterfingers. Tom Brady's luck, now that's some bullshit that would still fly today. It's safe to assume that Tomlinson's record may never be broken unless we get a 24-game season in the future. I mean, Austin Eckler led the league last year in TDs, and he scored 18, 13 of them on the ground. Today, there's just not as many bell cow backs. They've been pushed aside in favor of committees and easy pick play TDs in the red zone. So rest easy, LT, your record isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Unlike glow sticks. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.